Dr. Babongile Mkhize, thank you so much for being here today. I have to start with this story about your PhD thesis. You finished it in 1 month and 3 weeks, which by academic standards is pretty much impossible. Tell me about that.
Thank you for having me, April. When I look back at it now, it still amazes me. I was midway through chapter 3 and my mind just went blank, completely stuck. So I did what I often do. I put on my running shoes, turned up worship music, and just started running. And right there in the middle of that run, I heard this quiet voice breaking down exactly how to structure the chapter. I literally turned around mid-stride, hands lifted, and said, "Thank you, Supervisor." Wait, Supervisor? You mean God? Exactly. See, years earlier, when I first started working at South Africa's Department of Science, Technology, and Innovation, God taught me something foundational. He said, remember who your boss is. You report to God first, before your supervisor. And that's become the core principle of how I work. So when I was writing that thesis, he was my primary supervisor. When the reviewers later praised how easily it read, I knew exactly why. That's fascinating.
So this wasn't just a spiritual principle, this was actually practical. Can you unpack that a bit? What does it mean day to day to report to God first?
Right, so it's incredibly practical. Before I present any work to my supervisor, I present it to God first. Before starting any task, I ask him how he wants it done. If I hit resistance or difficult people, I report it to my real boss first. It's like, picture God throwing a task onto your desk. It doesn't matter whose hands actually deliver it, your immediate supervisor, an executive, or someone being difficult. You're accountable to God for how you handle it.
I mean, that's a complete mindset shift. You started in chemistry, right? A scientist. How did you end up in international relations and executive leadership?
Yeah, I loved chemistry the way some people love music. Formulas, calculations, the precision, it all made sense to me. But I was the firstborn in a family of 10, and I felt that weight of responsibility. I couldn't stay in the university lab forever while my siblings needed support. So when a government position opened in Pretoria, I moved. And here's the thing. God had already told me twice, years apart, that I would work in Pretoria. So when the call came, I just knew.
No application, no interview, just a call?
Exactly. Just pack your things and come. 1-year contract. And when colleagues worried as the contract neared the end, I had one response: God is handling it. And he did. Before the final day, I interviewed for a senior position in international relations, and I walked into that interview in what felt like a fog. But afterwards, people kept calling saying, "You were outstanding." Within a year, I was promoted again.
That's incredible. But you mentioned God made it clear the chemistry had to go. What do you mean by that?
Not the knowledge, but the identity. By the time I reached middle management as a deputy director, God said I needed an MBA. I said, "Lord, I'm a scientist. The only language I understand better is science. I cannot write." He said, "You're going to write it." So here's what happened. The application required a 2 to 3 page motivation letter. With God's help, I wrote it and was admitted. I completed the MBA in record time while working full-time, trusting God to teach me what I needed, how to lead people with confidence in the corporate world.
You talk about flexibility being key to all this. What does that mean for you?
That's a great question. God reminded me of the clay in the potter's hands. Flexibility means allowing him to use me however he wants. But flexibility requires one thing: being fully yourself. I tell people all the time, be the best you can be, not bongy. You can learn what God is doing in my life, but you are you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. There's this moment in your story back when you were 21 in a microbiology lab. Something happened that seemed to anchor everything else. Can you tell me about that?
Oh, yes. I was finishing practicals at a different university, distracted because my father was unwell and finances were tight. I couldn't focus. Then one day, sitting in the lab, I felt a pat on my shoulder, like someone checking my work. I turned around. No one was there. Then this blanket of fire covered my entire body, warm, peaceful, full of love. I knew immediately, is that you? And God started speaking to me. He said, you were worried about finances and couldn't focus. I want you to know from now on that I'm concerned about everything that has to do with you. Your studies, your life, your family, everything. You children of God have this tendency to think I only care about spiritual things. No, I care about every single thing.
Wow, that shifts everything because I think a lot of business leaders compartmentalize spiritual life over here, work life over there, but you're saying God cares about chemistry practicals as much as salvation.
Exactly. He's practical, not distant, a friend, not just a doctrine. That moment taught me he was checking my work, walking with me, and that principle carried me through everything. International negotiations, the PhD, and even last year when I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Stage 4 cancer?
I can't imagine.
What happened?
6 months of chemotherapy, then surgery, then 2 months of radiation. But when surgeons removed my breast and sent it to the lab, they couldn't find any traces of cancer. I was declared cancer-free by December. God kept his promise, and I believe he still wanted me to go through that hard journey for the testimony, for the medical practitioners too. Because when they say you're stage 4, they write you off. So they had to cut it and examine it and realize it's gone.
That's powerful. And through all of that, God remained your supervisor.
Absolutely. Just as he had been in the lab, in the boardroom, and in every stage of my career, he's faithful, April, always.
So if someone's listening to this right now, maybe they're heading into Monday morning, facing a tough project or a difficult boss, what's the first step they can take? Start by changing who you report to first.
Before you present that report to your manager, present it to God. Before you start that project, ask him, how do you want me to handle this? When you hit resistance, report it to him first. And remember, he cares about every single thing that concerns you, not just the spiritual stuff. Every task on your desk, every difficult conversation, every financial pressure, every health battle.
Dr. Mkhize, this has been really enlightening. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. I know it's going to encourage a lot of people.
Thank you, April. It's been a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, you can find the full article in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in to Kingdom Factor Collective.